What's going on, Pats Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Kansas Pats Talk Patriots podcast. I'm joined today by a very special guest, former NFL running back from the Chicago Bears and Pittsburgh Steelers, Merril Hodge. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm good, buddy. Good to be
That's
good.
good.
Good to be with the Patriots, baby.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you joining me. We're about to get into to a little bit before we let you go, man. We are about 24 hours from the draft, man. What's your initial thoughts so far on the draft?
Well, I never get too caught up in the draft. Even when I got drafted, I realized that was a waste of time. And there's a lot of, there'll be a lot of unknowns. Obviously, what's interesting is all people have ever heard are really a media's perspective. And I can tell you, having been in the media for some 30 years and then being behind the doors of an organization, um, most media is hitting a tree and missing the target. It's pure guesswork. There's a lot of real detailed and important stuff that they do, teams do, and are working on that nobody's privy of. And those things unfold, obviously, when the draft comes around, from how they select players, how they trade things, and how the draft will unfold.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, man. I know right now we're getting a lot of mock drafts, who's going where. I know when you was working at ESPN, were you a big fan of the mock drafts, and do you think teams really go by those?
No, I mean they'll watch them. I mean, I've been there. They'll sit there and watch them, and half the time they laugh at them. And mock drafts are just. Well, it's always interesting. Everybody who creates a mock draft, they constantly shift the mock draft, and they shifted a lot after the combine. Why? Because real football people start watching tape, and real football people start talking about what kid really has legitimate skills to transition, what will be questionable, what is going to be a long shot, and then those mocks change. So that tells you people doing the mocks really don't know. They're waiting for the football people to tell them what they think about. Then they change their mocks. They don't change their mocks. Well, if they changed their mock draft like they do based on their own evaluations, and well, then you have to question a lot about what they know about their mock draft. Then if they change that drastically, they change drastically because coaches, football people start watching, and they start looking at players and going, man, that's going to be hard in our league. Or they'll be like, no, that guy's special. That guy's great. That's why the mock draft changed. I mean, anyway, so that's why I go back to, like, the media hit the tree, miss the target, and all organizations know that, but they do watch it. You got to stay on top of news and information that that's getting out and getting around.
Yeah, it's good stuff there, man. I've always been curious today. I was like, man, do these people that are really in the pros watching these mock drafts? I'm pretty sure some teams go by that, but it's always been fascinating to me about the mock drafts, and a lot of times they do be right. But so it's gonna be interesting to see what happens tomorrow night, man. I know I've seen a lot of mocks. Switching over to the Bears, man. Caleb Williams, how you think? I mean, everybody knows that's where he's going. He's going to Chicago. His first year with the Bears, how do you think they would go? Because it seems like they got the right talent around them. They went out and got Keenan Allen, got DJ Moore. They're still building the offensive line. Let's see. I think they only got like 5 or 6 draft picks. I think last time I checked, they got about 5 or 6 picks. How do you think his first year will go? And what would be some advice that you would tell him?
Well, the first thing is that you're walking into a completely different environment. Okay, the world that he played in at USC was a college environment. Even the field changes, and I think a lot of people don't realize that an NFL field is different than a college field, and not the width and length, but the hash marks. College, the hash marks are wide, and that's why the college game is played on the perimeter. When you get the NFL, those hash marks are narrow, and that's why the game is played in the middle. And then a lot of things change from that perspective. First of all, he played in a predominantly college system. He won't play in that system in the NFL because they don't exist, because they'll never exist just based on the hash marks. Okay. And then this other element, everybody's good in the National Football League. My guy is as good as your guy. That's why it's a matchup league. Where in college, majority of the time, my guy was better than your guy. And that's the way college is. And then when you look at his skill set, and what he will have to develop and what he'll have to get better at is an area that he was just okay at. Now let's talk about what he was really good at. Okay, he's really He's an accurate passer.
Mhm.
In fact, he's elite. I love his accuracy. Um, from the pocket, though, these two things, this is how I build a quarterback, and can they transition to the National Football League? Now, in the last 5 years, only two guys have done this that fit this standard, and that's C.J. Stroud and Joe Burrow. Okay, so processing and accuracy, like they got to be like this. They are one together. You can't have one without the other. You can't be a really good processor and then be erratic. Okay, one of those is going to drive you out of the league. And then there's the different degrees of that, processing and accuracy. There's one from 1 to 10. Accuracy is a 10. Processing, he's a 5. He's a 5. And then he has some magic that has helped him win a Heisman Trophy, and he does well because he's very elusive. Well, in the history of our game, and I'm talking about over 100 years, this is not like in the last few weeks or the last few years, you have to function from the pocket, and you got to be able to process precisely and throw the ball accurately. And you're going to play from a dirty pocket. In college, that pocket was clean, and you had 3, 4, 5 seconds to throw the football. And it's a different environment. You come to the NFL, you got a little over 2, and that ball better come out. It better be decisive, and you better be accurate. There's going to be people around you. Now he is 6'1", and that is somewhat shorter compared to the other standards that exist in the NFL. Patrick Mahomes, he's been compared to. I see absolutely no comparison whatsoever to that. But and I'm just looking
Everybody's
at
trying to find their Patrick Mahomes.
yeah. Well, and the Bears are for sure. But why? Because they let him go. They skipped up and took Mr. Trubisky and let Patrick Mahomes go. Now, how you evaluated those two guys that came up with that, like that just tells you about the draft too. And that goes into measurable evaluators and football evaluators. They're uniquely different. Doesn't mean I like a football evaluator. I'm a football evaluator. I'm not a measurable evaluator. And there are a lot of just measurable evaluators. They go by that. They live by that. They die by that. You will make more mistakes doing that than you will go by the football evaluation. But getting back to Caleb, how he functions in the pocket will be his biggest hurdle. Now, that's going to take a couple of years. It's not going to be a couple of weeks. You just mentioned, they got some perimeter players.
Yeah.
But I will tell you this: you mentioned an area that is probably I shouldn't say probably. It is most critical for the success of your quarterback and your offense is the 5 guys up front.
Yep.
How buttoned up they are, how good they are, how well they play, will really help him develop or will hinder his development. Because I go back to his ability, his elusive ability to move. He did that a lot in college, even when he didn't have to. And see, that's where I get, that's troublesome from an evaluation process because you can't do that in the NFL. And listen, he made some incredible plays by escaping, but he made a lot of bad plays. And the one thing, not just bad throws, not just bad decisions, putting the ball on the ground was a problem with him. He carries the ball recklessly. He doesn't protect the ball very well. It's on the ground a lot. Made a lot of bad throws, threw some interceptions that were just like, that's why you have to play in structure, and he has to be able to develop from the pocket. And that's going to take a couple of years. Can he do that? Sure. That's not easy, though. He's going to always be fighting his instinct to run. And making that the last option versus some of the first or second option will be his biggest hurdle. He'll eventually have to grow through that. And in that process, can he develop the confidence to keep growing, or does he get beat down? Because here's what's going to happen. Go back to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is 6'3". Patrick Mahomes came into some of the best coaching in NFL history. Patrick Mahomes came to a playoff team. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year. Patrick Mahomes had a mentor. None of that exists. None of that exists for Caleb Williams. And what type of mental toughness does Caleb Williams have? I mean, is he a self-entitled punk? Is he a strong leader? I mean, you got to figure those things out because that's going to get tested. And that's part of being skilled at any profession. That mental toughness and how you're going to handle that and how you're going to deal with that. Yeah. So those things will unfold. And we'll get to see, but you got to give him 2 years to do that. Yeah. And that will be the hurdles that he has to overcome. And if he can, I think he could be an awesome player in the National Football League.
The Jaden Daniels situation, it's been out the past week or so, with Washington doing, bringing all them for Top Golf in DC or Virginia, wherever it was or whatnot. I think they had Drake May, McCarthy. Caleb wasn't there because everybody know where he's going. They had a couple more. Michael Penix was there. How do you had you ever seen anything like that? I mean, were you kind of thrown off by it, or like teams do this all the time?
Bringing people in.
Yeah, like just because it seemed like they had like 20 prospects on one thing. Like it was just crazy. I
Well,
seen everybody.
yeah. Well, let's put this perspective. Okay. Nothing great or no great team was built suddenly. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what everybody has this down, and this is what happens with the draft. Is this pick right here is going to build the Washington Redskins or I mean the Washington Commanders or the Chicago Bears or the New England Patriots. And that is only a piece of the puzzle. That is one player. Now, I understand that player is a critical component, especially in the top five. Like that guy better be able to transition and help your team. He just better. So let's use Washington for example.
Mm-hmm.
Of the guys that you just mentioned, quarterback wise, if I am the decision maker there, and our owner has said we got to take a quarterback because listen, people forget that too. There's a lot of owners that jump in and they all
Yep.
because
Yep.
and they make the call or they tell you what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what the football guy says. You can be saying, "Hey, that's not the kind of guy we need. I don't care. That's why I
Right.
hired you.
Right.
Fixing. There's things you can't fix. But let's just say in Washington, you had to make here the guy I would pick, and it would take me absolutely no time to get up there because it ain't even a contest. Would be Daniels from LSU.
Then that's the consensus right now. Jaden Daniels going to DC. Now Shelter. A lot of people reporting that some people still trying to say Drake May, which we're going to get into Drake after Jaden. But every now and then somebody can throw you a curveball out of nowhere. Roger Goodell might get up there and say somebody else going to be the pick for Washington. But I think when it's coming from so many sources, I think it's almost you can't just say everything is smoke screen. Right now at this time of the year. We're 24 hours from the draft. I think Daniel's going to be the pick. He's older, where he'd be 24 this year, whatnot. But I think he fits everything that Washington wants to do. They got some receivers. They got Dotson. They got Terry McLaurin that they can sign tight end for me of the Eagles and the Cardinals. I think it's the best spot for him. But then you seen the agent, he came out with a tweet and said he didn't really, where they kind of said that he didn't really like what was going on. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens there in Washington and whatnot if they do pick him.
Well, here's where an agent should keep his tweet to himself because nobody cares what your agent thinks. And guess what?
Mm-hmm.
This is what players forget. Those agents work for you. You don't work for the agent.
Right.
Tell the agent to shut up. Tell the agent, okay, that's irrelevant. Don't be an idiot. Okay, don't play in it. Free yourself of social media during this time frame because what things and what people do and what organizations do is irrelevant to your journey and what you're responsible for. So
Right. We just mentioned it right there. Drake May. I've known in the past you've had some hits and some misses on some of the draftable quarterbacks coming out. I think you've had way more hits than misses though, or whatnot. Drake May. We've seen what you said about Drake, and you say you wouldn't draft him. I believe he's in the first round. I think you say he can be in the second round, but not the first round. It's a two-part question. Do you still remain firm on that, on what you said or whatnot? And what do you think is the biggest thing that you see with him?
well, I am 100% convinced that based on my studies of him for 2 years, there's no way on planet Earth that I take him in the first round, especially in the top five. Now, I just talked about, the two things that really are critical, processing and accuracy. Okay, and then there's different degrees of that. He's bad at both. He's bad at both. I mean, he is bad at both. And you're not going to fix that. And that's the other problem that all organizations do. They always can fix everything, Well, I can teach that. You know what? That's actually not the real thing you should be asking.
Some things you can't fix.
No, you're right. You can teach anything, but can it be learned and applied? If it
Right.
can't be learned and applied or it can't be fixed, just get rid of them. And actually, that's a good coach and a good evaluator is we can't fix that. Okay. Like you can't. Okay, here's one thing I'll say, and everybody that's watching this, all of your fan base will agree with this. Nobody can teach speed. Everybody just goes to university. They're like, oh, you can't teach speed. Guy who runs a 4.3 is a lot different than the guy who runs a 4.6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, speed wise. And that 4.6 guy will never be a 4.3 guy. That is unanimous, 100% yes. And nobody can make that 4-6 guy a 4-3 guy one day. Everybody agrees to that. But all of a sudden, you can fix stupid. All of a sudden, a guy who has no instincts, you can fix that. All of a sudden, a guy who has no accuracy and is inconsistent, you can fix that. And then all of a sudden, you can fix the whole processing aspect of things when a guy doesn't see things that are relatively vanilla in college, by the way. And now they're going to they're going to jump from first grade math to geometry in a few days here. And all of a sudden, they're going to get that. And they can't even do first grade math. I'm like, that's how you get fired, is that you think you can fix things you cannot fix, and you know you can't fix. And the only one people that agree with that is speed. So going to Drake May. Now listen, I could put some throws with Drake May that would actually blow your mind. I could put a highlight reel. This is why I say TV lies and highlights really lie. I could put a highlight reel together for him that you'd be like, oh my gosh, he's better than anybody in this draft.
Right.
He throws the ball better than anybody. But when you look at the body of work, when you look at all of the throws, the inconsistencies, the bad throws, the missed throws, the critical moments, I'm telling you, it is a lopsided affair. Now you're taking a guy and he struggles in a dirty pocket and a clean pocket. Why? He's slow-footed. Like you go to Daniels, like he's a quick twitch guy. His releases is tight. All the things I liked about Daniels at LSU, he is not. He lumbers. He's slow. His throwing motion elongated. And I'll tell you, remember Byron Leftwich?
Yes, from the Jaguars. Still, yes.
Here's what drove Byron Leftwich out of the league. Byron Leftwich had this looping throwing motion. Okay. Now, all of that, the difference between this and this is like, 0.3 seconds. Okay.
Yes.
Now, in the National Football League, you know what that tells defensive coordinators? If we can get our DBs, we can hit him. That 0.03 second gives us more time to hit him. So he got blitzed more, he got hit more, and eventually ended his career because that flaw got exposed. Well, he has elongated one. It's not a very quick type thing. And people go, you can tighten that up. You sure can. And you're going to spend hours and hours, and you're not.
And then that might take away from him learning the playbook.
Working on. So there's all these things that you have to work on, and there's a lot. Okay, his footwork is not very good. Pocket presence is average. Okay, his accuracy is erratic, short, immediate, vertical, across the board.
Yep.
About every aspect you could think that he has to work on. So if you think about working on making the player better, and you're only going to get so much better, okay? That accuracy is out here. It needs to be here. But we can go from here to here. We'll never get here. Right. We'll never get here. It's never happened. I've never seen it happen. What time are we going to use to spend on teaching him the offense? And then the defenses that he's going to face. Now, if he comes out there, and he's not going to fix all of this, and then he's going to enter the field, and guess what everybody's expecting? He's a top 5 pick. That's our Troy Aikman. That's our John Elway. That's our Tom. This ain't Tom Brady, because Tom Brady was a 6th contract pick. Okay, right. This is all those top 5 picks that we have seen in the past.
Right.
That ain't that guy. Then they're going to pound on the kid. And that's why I say kids get ruined mentally way before they get ruined physically. And then he becomes overwhelming. Then he's struggling with.
So real quick, what you say to the people that think that he should, if they like right now, he's marked from a lot of people to go number 3 to New England. How ironic you're on the Patriots podcast, but he's supposed to get ranked to go to the Patriots. We're supposed to draft him. I'm pretty sure you probably heard that too. Is probably going to New England.
Yes.
What do you say to the people who say, oh, well, they got Jacoby Brissett. He doesn't have to play right away. He can take time to learn the playbook and learn some of the work on his mechanics, footwork, and all that stuff. Do you think that will help what you're seeing on film, though?
Okay, it's a good question. Now, here I'm gonna answer it from this perspective. Okay, here's the problem a lot of organizations get. Okay, this is not the only time you're going to be able to draft a quarterback. People go, this is what actual organizations say. Well, this is all we got this year. What makes you believe you got to draft him this year? Okay, you got Jacoby Brissett. Okay, Jacoby Brissett is not your franchise, is not your future, but he can keep things afloat. And keep in mind, this is our first pick. It ain't our only pick. So who is? And I haven't seen all of the little less than 300 players that are going to get drafted. So I can't speak to seeing all of them. But I've looked at about 100. Okay, I can tell you this. I can think of 50 right now that the Patriots need that would help your football team and have a better chance of transitioning, because nobody's 100%,
Right.
that help your team at number 3 over Drake May. And then guess what? We do have other picks. Let's say I get a chance at Rattler at number 3, at the 3rd round. Because now he has a better skill set than Drake
From
May.
South Carolina. Yeah, Rattler.
Yes. I mean, and what that kid has gone through, sometimes that doesn't happen until they get to the pros. You know, he has been humbled, and you could see a kid that was really trying to work on his skill set. And when you see a lot of his bad plays were at the end of the game, and most of the time he played, he was on the team that wasn't as good. And a lot of his interceptions or some of his risky plays were at the end of the game where, listen, it's 4th down, you got to take a shot. Okay, and you got to look at all those scenarios. When does it happen? I don't know if you remember when Matt Ryan came out. Matt Ryan came out, Boston College, and I think he had 12 picks. And everybody goes, "Oh man, that's so much in your last year. I mean, he throws way too many picks." Well, if you went and looked at the 12 picks, only 1 pick did he throw that he actually made a bad throw in the structure of the middle of the game. All the other 11 were on the last drive, 4th and 20, 4th and 8, and he had to make throws because if you don't get the 1st down, the game's over anyway. That's where those picks come. So he wasn't making bad decisions, bad throws. So what I'm saying is you could pick up another guy that has less issues. And I just use Rattler for an example, less issues, and develop him and not hold your franchise hostage because you drafted a quarterback. You know, if our receiver that we draft, let's say we do Harrison, we take him, or the kid from LSU, number 8, at number 3. Okay, I think those 2 guys have a much better, based on the skill set they have, better chance of impacting and being players in the NFL than Drake May does. I let Drake May go. Nobody will trade with us. We can't go down, and we get stuck there. And then I grab Rattler. Say he's 3rd round, he's still sitting there. I'll take a run at him.
Yeah.
You know, and I give me some players that help me build a team versus a player that's going to hold me hostage and is going to make it another 3 or 4 years of rebuilding. Yeah, just went through that.
Right. Hey, we're 24 hours away, man. Last but not least, well, this right here is going to kind of correlate with the last question. So if you're New England at 3, would you take the gamble on what you know about would you take the gamble on JJ McCarthy, or would you? Well, I know you wouldn't go with Drake May, but from what you know about JJ McCarthy, how much far you think he is than Drake May?
Well, see, JJ's a good player. Okay, so this is still going to come down to expectations. When you draft somebody in the 3rd round, 3rd pick overall, and he's a quarterback, what do they expect? They're not expecting a manager of a team, or somebody who's got a really good skill set. They got to have somebody that is really elite and can make a difference in your team. And if you watch JJ, now they've done a good job. Like, you could tell that he could function in the remedial elementary style NFL where you run the football and then you throw off it. It's an either or combination. You have half field reads. And he even did that just okay in college.
Right.
He was just okay in college. His accuracy wasn't anything that, shot off his processing. Both of them, I'd say, were 5s and 6s. It wasn't like, wow, he just tore that apart. I still go back to what's best for the team. Is JJ better than Harrison? No. I still take the wide receiver. I take somebody that can help my team quicker. Rattler, I keep going back to him. He's not the only guy.
You get him in the 3rd round.
He's not the only guy, but I can get him in the 3rd round.
Right.
I can try that. And guess what? Next year, now all these teams should have this information. Who's coming out next year? What other kind of quarterbacks are they better than Drake? And you have to look at that. You have to say those guys have a lot better skill set right now. They have less issues than a Drake May, and you have to have that foresight. It ain't just they ain't just right here, man. Your scope has to be widened to that, because are the Patriots a quarterback away from being a good football team?
Nowhere near it. Nowhere near it. They need a quarterback and need probably a tackle, receivers. So you got to start somewhere, though, but they are not a quarterback away.
I agree. So start with somebody that can be a difference maker and has the best chance. Your tackle, go that kid at Oregon State. Go draft that kid. And you have your tackle problems are going to be over. And I'll put my money on that kid way over the Drake May scenario. And he's going to help build your team. He's going to give you a better chance to win as a team overall and be a championship team.
What do you think they're going to take May at 3 based on what you're in? I mean, what's your gut feeling?
Listen, I know how the system, I know how they function. I know how all these teams function. and that's why I say their scope and their view of it is like, well, that's all we have this year. Okay, well, and this ain't the only year we're going to build now. It ain't our
Right.
only pick. Let's make it right. So it do. So listen, based on the history, yes, like they take him, and then in 3 years from now, you and I are doing this podcast again, and you guys are not much better.
Right. Hey, we're gonna see, man. We're about 24 hours away, man. Merril, last one. You're an inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, man. Let everybody know where they can find you at and some of the other stuff that you have going on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. MerrilHodge.com. If you just go there, all of my speaking stuff is there. And if you're looking for a message that helps your team, not just inspire them, but things that translate and resonate, and are applied, I'd love to share a message with you. So thanks for having me on your podcast, brother.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. Good luck watching the draft tomorrow, and good luck for the Patriots tomorrow too, man. Hey, I appreciate everybody joining me today. If y'all gonna check me out later on, make sure you hit the like button, share on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, everywhere, man. I appreciate everybody. And once again, Merril Hodge, appreciate you taking time out to join me on the show to talk Patriots and talk the NFL draft.